My manager called me useless and then begged me to save the company I supposedly ruined. He said it in front of everyone. The entire product team sat there pretending not to look at me while Derek, my manager, tore me apart in that meeting. "You slow us down, you don't think big enough," he said. People laughed quietly. I sat there, hands shaking under the table, realizing I'd just been made the company's public joke. Before we go on, if you like true revenge stories where karma takes its time, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the twist that's coming. I worked for Bright Path Solutions, a startup full of ambition and politics. I gave that place everything: late nights, ideas, code that actually worked. But my boss, Derek, didn't like that I was younger and faster than him. Whenever I built something smart, he'd present it as his. My name slowly disappeared from every project I touched. Then came the big release, our most important client yet. I warned Derek the patch wasn't ready. He ignored me, pushed it live, and the system crashed. Instead of taking responsibility, he pointed at me. It was his code. One sentence and months of work went up in flames. HR called me the next morning. They said it was a mutual decision. It wasn't. I left that building numb. No one said goodbye. A few stared at me through the glass wall as I packed my desk. That was the moment something in me flipped. I didn't want to cry. I wanted to prove them wrong. See, a few months earlier, I had started a small side project. A cleaner, faster automation engine Derek once mocked. "Stop wasting time," he'd said. "That thing will never work." But it did. I'd built it at home, on my own laptop, no company code involved. When I got fired, that project became my obsession. I spent nights in a tiny rented room, coding until sunrise. Coffee, ramen, no distractions. Line by line, I turned that little prototype into something real, faster, smarter, stable. Every feature I perfected was one more way to take back control. 6 months later, my tool was complete, and better than anything BrightPath had ever released. I secured the license, timestamped every commit, and uploaded it under my name. It started getting attention online, quiet at first, then bigger. A few small clients reached out, and suddenly I had income again. Independence. Then one morning, I got an email. Subject: urgent. Need your help. From Derek, BrightPath Solutions. I read it 3 times, smiling. The man who called me useless was now asking for my help. And I hadn't even started enjoying my revenge yet. When I read Derek's email, I didn't reply. Not yet. I just sat there staring at it, letting the moment sink in. The man who called me useless was now reaching out for help, and I wasn't even sure he remembered what he'd done. But let's rewind 6 months to the part no one saw. The nights after I lost everything. I had no office, no savings, and no one returning my calls. My resume meant nothing now that Derek's story had branded me the guy who broke the release. I applied to a few jobs, but word travels fast in tech. Every recruiter said the same thing in polite tones. "We're going in a different direction." I knew what that meant. My name was toxic. So I made a decision. If no one wanted me, I'd make myself impossible to ignore. I moved into a cheaper place, one room, barely enough for my desk and a bed. The wallpaper peeled, the air conditioner rattled like an old car engine, but I didn't care. I needed silence and time. My days were a blur of freelance gigs just to pay rent, and my nights were for rebuilding my dream from scratch. I opened the folder that held my unfinished code, the one Derek had mocked. At first, it was just numbers and logic, but to me it felt personal. Every line I wrote was a quiet act of defiance. I wasn't just building software, I was building proof that I was never the problem. The weeks blurred together. I'd wake up, code, fall asleep in my chair, and start again. No team meetings, no fake smiles, no one stealing credit. Just me and the screen. I hit dead ends, lost files, broke my own code more times than I can count. But each time I fixed something, it felt like getting a small piece of myself back. It wasn't glamorous. There were nights I couldn't afford dinner. I remember boiling instant noodles for the third day in a row when an email pinged. A stranger had found my prototype online. He said, "This tool could save my company hours. Can we talk?" That one message changed everything. We set up a call. He was from a small logistics firm drowning in manual reports. I helped him integrate the tool over a weekend, just for the experience. On Monday, he emailed me again, said it worked flawlessly and wanted to pay me for it. It wasn't much, but it felt like the first honest money I'd earned in months. Soon there were more. Startups, solo devs, small businesses, people who didn't care about corporate politics, just results. Word spread. My inbox slowly filled with questions, requests, contracts. I wasn't rich, but I was free. And then something happened I didn't expect. A major tech blog picked up my story. Unknown developer builds automation engine outperforming corporate tools. They didn't name me at first, but anyone in the industry could tell where that corporate tool came from. 2 days later, BrightPath Solutions was trending, for all the wrong reasons. Users were complaining that their newest patch was unstable, slow, full of bugs, the same product I'd helped design. I didn't smile, not yet, because I knew how Derek operated. He didn't panic easily. If his empire was cracking, he'd be desperate enough to do something stupid. I didn't know it then, but that moment, that exact week, was when my comeback really began. The first time someone called my software a game changer, I thought they were exaggerating. But within a few weeks, it wasn't just one person saying it. It was dozens. Companies that had ignored my applications months earlier were now using my tool to speed up their systems. And the best part? They didn't even realize who had built it. At first, I kept quiet. My name wasn't attached to the early beta versions, only a small by ML in the footer. But when the tech blog followed up with a second article titled "The Anonymous Dev Behind the Tool Shaking Up Automation," I knew I couldn't stay hidden forever. My inbox exploded. Investors, recruiters, developers, even old coworkers, and same ones who'd avoided my eyes when I packed my box, suddenly wanted to catch up. I ignored most of them, but one message stood out. It was from a senior engineer at Nexora, BrightPath's biggest rival. They'd been struggling with slow deployments, the same problem my engine solved perfectly. He asked if I'd be open to consulting. It was a risky move, but I said yes. That week, I found myself sitting in Nexora's conference room, walking their team through my tool's architecture. No suits, no fake smiles, just smart people who wanted solutions. They listened, took notes, and actually gave me credit. It felt unreal. When the session ended, their CTO shook my hand and said, "We'll be in touch. This could change everything for us." And he was right. Within a month, Nexora's productivity doubled. They quietly rolled out my system across several departments, and their numbers went through the roof. A few of their executives even started dropping subtle hints online, praising innovative automation methods that, well, looked very familiar. Then the domino effect began. Other companies noticed Nexora's sudden growth. They wanted to know what secret weapon they were using. Some of them reached out directly to me, others tried to reverse engineer the public parts of my software. But because I'd learned my lesson, my licensing was airtight. You could use it freely, but commercial deployment required my written approval, and those fees added up quickly. By the end of the quarter, my small solo project was generating more revenue than my entire salary at BrightPath. For the first time, I wasn't just surviving, I was winning. But with every victory, I could feel old memories crawling back. Derek's voice, his laugh, the smirk when he called me useless. I tried to shake it off, but part of me wanted him to see what I'd built, to see that the man he destroyed was now building tools his competitors relied on. Then something happened that made that wish a reality. A new article dropped. this time from a respected tech outlet. It compared automation platforms, naming Nexora's implementation as the new gold standard. The analysis was detailed, technical, and very public. And right there in small print was the credit line. Core system powered by ML independent developer. The internet noticed. Forums lit up. Developers from BrightPath commented things like, "Wait, isn't that the guy who got fired last year?" Others defended me, saying, "If it's his code, they messed up firing him." It spread faster than I could have imagined. For me, it was validation. For BrightPath, it was humiliation. That same night, I checked my LinkedIn. I shouldn't have been surprised. Derek had viewed my profile. Twice. And a week later, his name appeared in my inbox again. Only this time, his tone wasn't polite. "We need to talk. You've created something that affects our business. Call me ASAP." He was worried. I could almost smell it through the screen. And I wasn't done yet. Derek's email sat in my inbox for a full day before I even opened it. The subject line was polite, almost desperate. Possible collaboration opportunity. I couldn't help but laugh. The man who had fired me for incompetence was now talking about collaboration. When I finally opened it, the message was full of corporate fluff, compliments, excuses, and a subtle attempt to rewrite history. "We've always appreciated your innovative thinking." That line alone almost made me close it. But at the end, one sentence caught my eye. "We'd like to discuss licensing your automation platform for potential integration with BrightPath's upcoming systems." That's when I realized something. BrightPath was in trouble. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I started digging. Public reports showed their latest releases had been delayed twice. Clients were complaining about instability. Internally, rumors spread that senior developers were leaving. Derek wasn't reaching out because he respected me. He was reaching out because he had no choice. I crafted my reply carefully. Polite, distant, professional. I suggested we schedule a call the following week. Nothing personal, just business. When the day came, I joined the video meeting early. I wanted him to see me first. When Derek's camera turned on for a moment, he didn't recognize me. I'd changed. Calmer, sharper, confident. He, on the other hand, looked exhausted. The same man who once loved power now looked like he hadn't slept in days. He started with small talk, pretending everything was fine. I let him talk, nodding politely until he finally said it. "We'd like to explore how your platform could help us improve efficiency." I leaned back and smiled slightly. "You mean the one you said was a waste of time?" The silence that followed was glorious. He tried to laugh it off. "You know how startups are. Priorities shift, ideas evolve." "Sure," I said. "But you and I both know this isn't about priorities. Your system is falling apart." That's when he dropped the act. His tone changed. Less confident, more pleading. He admitted they were behind schedule, losing clients, and desperately needed a solution. He even offered to bring me on as a consultant at a premium rate. I kept my face neutral, but inside my mind was racing. This was my chance. Not just to make money, but to take control of the very company that once humiliated me. But I had to play it right. Revenge done wrong looks petty. Revenge done smart looks like business. So I told him I'd consider it. After the call, I reached out to my lawyer, the same one who had helped me license my code. We drafted terms, clear intellectual property protection, mandatory credit, and strict boundaries for implementation. No sharing, no internal modification, no rebranding. Every clause was a quiet shield. I sent the document the next day. Derek responded within hours. "We'll review this with legal." I knew that meant he hated it, but he had no leverage. For a week, there was silence. Then, one Friday night, my phone buzzed. An email with the subject line, "Agreement draft accepted, pending signatures." I read it 3 times. They had agreed to everything, every single term. I leaned back in my chair, smiling to myself. The company that once erased my name from their product was now legally bound to display it on theirs. But deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. Derek might have signed the deal, but he wasn't the type to surrender quietly, and I was ready for whatever came next. A week after BrightPath signed the contract, I saw the first cracks appear, not in my code, but in theirs. They launched their newest update with my automation system integrated. The rollout went smoothly at first. Social media buzzed, clients praised the faster response times, and Derek probably thought he just pulled off the comeback of the year. But deep down, I knew something he didn't. My system didn't just automate processes, it recorded everything. Every request, every configuration, every error report, all stored securely offsite under my ownership. It wasn't a trap, it was protection. A record of who was doing what. At first, I checked the logs just out of curiosity. Then I noticed something strange. BrightPath's developers were trying to modify the software internally, despite the clear licensing restrictions. Lines of code they weren't authorized to touch. Hidden behind generic file names, but I knew what I was looking at. Derek was trying to rebrand my system as an internal product. Again, I didn't react immediately. I documented everything: screenshots, timestamps, file histories. This wasn't just revenge anymore, this was strategy. Meanwhile, Nexora, my other client, was dominating the market. Their reports were cleaner, their clients happier, and they began to win contracts that once belonged to BrightPath. One after another, major partners started to shift sides. It wasn't even personal anymore, it was simple economics. My technology worked, theirs didn't. But BrightPath didn't take the losses quietly. A few of their employees began reaching out privately, hinting that internal tensions were boiling. Developers frustrated with Derek's leadership, project managers complaining about unrealistic deadlines. One message stood out. "We know what you built. Derek's been trying to cover it up." I didn't respond, but I saved every word. Then came the first major public hit. A well-known tech publication released a comparative analysis: BrightPath's system versus Nexora's. The conclusion was brutal. BrightPath's automation framework shows significant instability and poor optimization, raising concerns about internal quality control. I didn't write that article, I didn't need to. Truth has a way of writing itself when people try to bury it. Within days, BrightPath's stock dipped. Their clients began to withdraw. Derek started doing damage control, posts on LinkedIn about internal restructuring and new opportunities for innovation. It was almost funny. Then, out of nowhere, I got another email from him. Shorter this time, no fake warmth, no flattery. Just, "We need to meet, face to face." I almost deleted it, but curiosity got the better of me. We met in a quiet cafe downtown, the same kind of place we used to visit after team wins, back when I thought we were a team. He looked older, thinner, the stress visible in his eyes. He got straight to the point. "We're in trouble," he said, voice low. "Our clients are walking away. I know your platform is the reason. We need your help fixing it." It took everything in me not to laugh. "You mean the company that called me useless?" I said calmly. "Now you want me to fix what you broke?" His jaw clenched. "I'm offering you a real position. Consultant, partner, AD, whatever it takes. We can rebuild this together." For a moment, I let the silence hang between us. Then I leaned forward and said, "You didn't just fire me, Derek. You erased me. And now you want me to save you from the mess you created?" He tried to hold my gaze, but he couldn't. He looked down at his coffee, defeated. That was the moment I realized I didn't need to destroy him. He was already doing that himself. Still, I had one more move left to make, and it would make sure BrightPath never forgot my name again. When Derek asked me to help rebuild, I didn't say no. I didn't say yes either. I just looked at him and said, "Send me the details." I wanted to see how desperate he really was. That night, his assistant sent over a proposal, a messy, rushed document full of contradictions. They wanted me to consult while quietly allowing them to modify my system. It was obvious they were trying to claw back control of the software they'd already licensed from me. A teach key backdoor plan to make it theirs again? I read it twice, then smiled. I forwarded the proposal to my attorney and added one line. Prepare something they can't refuse, but make it legally bulletproof. We spent 3 days reworking every clause. Every permission came with a restriction. Every access point was monitored. Every deliverable tied to clear accountability. On paper, it looked like a generous collaboration. In reality, it was a leash, and I held the end of it. When Derek saw the contract, he called me immediately. These conditions are restrictive, he said, trying to sound calm. They're protective, I corrected, for both of us. He hesitated. I could hear him exhale, the sound of a man cornered. All right, he said finally, we'll sign. It was almost too easy. Once the agreement was in place, I began working directly with their developers. The tension was thick from day one. Some recognized my name from the old days. Others just knew the rumors, that I was the guy who got fired and somehow came back on top. They didn't talk much, but I could feel their resentment every time I joined a call. Still, I kept my cool. I wasn't there for revenge in words. I was there for results. My new system began revealing their internal flaws, inefficiencies, and bad practices. Every report it generated was like a mirror showing them what they'd ignored for years. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. During a project audit, my software flagged unauthorized code modifications. Again. This time, they weren't just minor tweaks. They were deliberate attempts to reroute ownership tags inside the system. It was clear someone was trying to hide something. I ran a trace. The edits came from Derek's personal credentials. That was my green light. I documented everything. Screen recordings, access logs, internal communications. Then I sent a single message to Derek. We need to talk about compliance. The call was short. He tried to deny it at first, but the evidence was impossible to dispute. I wasn't aggressive. I didn't need to be. I simply reminded him that every change violated the terms of our agreement, and that I had the right to terminate their license immediately. His voice cracked when he said, "You wouldn't do that." I paused just long enough for him to understand that I absolutely could. By Monday, BrightPath's systems were partially shut down, legally. I didn't sabotage anything. I simply disabled their commercial access until compliance was restored. Without it, they couldn't deploy updates. Their entire production line froze. The panic that followed was predictable. Clients demanded answers. Investors called emergency meetings. Inside BrightPath, chaos reigned. And in the middle of it all, I received a message from an unexpected source. A board member? She'd heard about the incident and wanted to resolve things amicably. Her tone was polite, professional, and afraid. That was the moment I realized the balance of power had completely shifted. Derek wasn't just losing control of his company, he was losing his reputation. The same one he'd built by destroying mine. And I wasn't done tightening the leash. The message from the BrightPath board member landed in my inbox late at night. It was brief but careful, the kind of email written by someone trying to sound calm while standing on a sinking ship. She asked for a confidential discussion regarding the current situation. I could practically hear the alarm bells ringing behind her words. We met over video the next morning. Her name was Evelyn, one of the senior directors. Unlike Derek, she didn't waste time with small talk. "We're aware of the compliance issue," she said. "We'd prefer to resolve this privately without escalation." Privately? I asked. You mean quietly? She didn't deny it. Our reputation is fragile right now. Investors are watching closely. I think we can find a mutually beneficial solution. Her tone was polished, but I knew a negotiation when I heard one. BrightPath wasn't worried about me. Well, they were terrified of what I could do. I leaned back and kept my voice steady. Evelyn, your team violated our licensing agreement multiple times. You have 24 hours to provide an explanation in writing. Otherwise, I'll have no choice but to terminate access completely. Her jaw tightened, but she nodded. Understood. I ended the call. No threats, no raised voice. Just facts. That's the thing about revenge. You don't need to shout when you're already winning. Within hours, the panic began. My legal inbox flooded with half apologies and excuses, accidental modifications, unauthorized testing, junior developer error, classic corporate damage control. But the timestamps didn't lie. The code changes were deliberate, systematic, and approved by someone at the top. That night, I sent the board a detailed compliance report. Every violation documented, every digital fingerprint linked to Derek's account. I copied their legal counsel. Then I waited. The response came faster than I expected. Less than 12 hours later, another meeting request appeared, this time with the entire Bright Path board. When the call began, the tension was visible even through the screen. Derek sat off to the side, pale, his usual arrogance gone. Evelyn led the conversation. She thanked me for bringing the concerns to their attention and promised corrective action. Then came the part that almost made me laugh. Mr. Lang, she said, we're initiating an internal investigation. In the meantime, Derek has decided to step down as project director. I kept my expression neutral, but inside, something in me finally settled. After years of humiliation, the man who'd built his career on taking credit for others was being forced to resign because of my evidence. They offered me a new proposal, a full partnership, expanded licensing, shared revenue. They wanted me to help restore trust in the Bright Path brand. I listened politely, but I already knew my answer. I appreciate the offer, I said, but I'm not in the business of fixing broken reputations. Silence. Derek didn't even look up. When the call ended, I closed my laptop and just sat there. For the first time in years, the weight was gone. I didn't cheer, didn't celebrate. It wasn't that kind of victory. It was quieter, deeper, but it wasn't over. Because a week later, a journalist reached out. The same one who'd written about my tool months before. They'd gotten a tip about a major internal scandal at BrightPath and wanted to confirm whether I was involved. I hadn't planned to go public, but as I read the message, I realized something. I didn't have to destroy BrightPath. All I had to do was tell the truth. And once the truth got out, there'd be nothing left for Derek to hide behind. When the journalist reached out, I hesitated. Revenge was one thing, public exposure was another. I wasn't trying to ruin lives, I just wanted mine back. But BrightPath had crossed too many lines for me to stay silent. And if they were already being investigated internally, the story was going to surface sooner or later. So I agreed to meet. We met in a quiet cafe downtown, the same one where Derek had begged for my help weeks earlier. The irony wasn't lost on me. The journalist, a sharp-eyed woman named Claire, didn't waste time. We've received internal reports, logs, and leaked email, she said. They all point to a pattern of misconduct. Stolen work, licensing breaches, falsified credits. Can you confirm any of this? I didn't hand her any confidential data, but I showed her enough. Timestamps, commit records, the legal agreements, all publicly verifiable. Everything I've done was within the law, I said. They built their success on lies, and I just stopped letting them get away with it. She nodded, quietly impressed. You realize this could end BrightPath? I'm not ending anything, I said. They did that to themselves. A week later, the article dropped. Inside the collapse of BrightPath Solutions, a story of stolen code and corporate deception. The piece went viral overnight. Screenshots, internal memos, side-by-side comparisons of my code and theirs, all laid out in clean, damning detail. My name wasn't framed as revenge, it was framed as justice. The article painted me as the developer who stood up for integrity, in an industry where credit theft was the norm. BrightPath's PR team went silent. Their social media accounts locked down. Derek's LinkedIn disappeared entirely. And then came the official statement: BrightPath Solutions will undergo leadership restructuring and a full internal audit. Translation: they were falling apart. I expected to feel triumphant, maybe even satisfied, but what I felt was calm. Watching the company unravel didn't bring back the years I'd lost, but it did something else. It restored my name. People I hadn't heard from in years reached out. Old colleagues apologized. Some even admitted they'd known what Derek had done, but stayed quiet out of fear. And as the chaos unfolded, I made one final move. I donated a portion of my earnings to a nonprofit that supported young developers, scholarships, mentorships, resources. The kind of help I wished I'd had when I was starting out. I called the fund Project Rebuild. The timing couldn't have been better. Claire's article mentioned the donation in an update, and suddenly my story wasn't just about revenge. It was about redemption. The public loved it. The more BrightPath fell, the more my platform grew. Within a month, Nextdoor officially acquired several of BrightPath's former clients. They even invited me to speak at a conference about innovation and ethics in tech. I stood on that stage, lights blinding my eyes, and realized this was the same industry that had once labeled me a failure. After the talk, someone from the audience approached me, one of BrightPath's junior engineers. "You probably don't remember me," he said. "I was in the room that day when Derek called you useless. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that." I shook his hand and smiled. "You know what? It's fine. I'm exactly where I was meant to be." But as I walked out of that hall, I couldn't help but wonder, where was Derek now? I didn't have to wait long to find out, because the next day his name appeared in the news again. And this time, it wasn't about me. I saw his name on the screen early that morning. Former BrightPath executive faces internal investigation over ethics violations. Derek's picture was right there, plastered across every tech outlet. The man who once controlled rooms with his arrogance now looked hollow, cornered, exposed. The article detailed everything: misuse of company resources, unauthorized code modifications, falsified performance reports. They didn't need my help to uncover it. My compliance report had already started the chain reaction. But what caught me off guard was the final line. Sources confirm Derek Lang has resigned amid allegations and is currently under review for breaching corporate integrity policies. That was it. The man who'd called me useless had just lost the only thing that made him feel powerful: control. For a moment, I just sat there in silence, letting it sink in. Years of humiliation, anger, and frustration condensed into a single quiet feeling: relief. I didn't feel the rush of revenge I'd expected. No thrill, just peace. Like finally exhaling after, holding my breath for too long. Later that week, I got a message from an unknown number. No greeting, no introduction, just a single sentence. "You won. Happy now?" It was him. I stared at the screen for a long time before typing back, "No, Derek, I didn't win. I just stopped losing." He didn't reply. A few days later, I saw him again, by chance. It was at a local tech event. He wasn't on stage this time. He was sitting in the audience, quiet, unnoticed, just another face in the crowd. When our eyes met, there was no anger left in his, just recognition, maybe even regret. He nodded once, a small, tired gesture, and I nodded back. That was it. No confrontation, no dramatic speeches, just closure. After the event, I stepped outside into the cool air. My phone buzzed with messages from new clients, invitations to collaborate, offers to speak. But I didn't open them right away. I walked down the street instead, hands in my pockets, watching the city move, fast, noisy, alive. That's when it hit me. Revenge wasn't supposed to make me happy, it was supposed to make me free. And it had. I'd taken everything they used against me, humiliation, rejection, failure, and turned it into the very thing that rebuilt my life. My company was thriving, my reputation stronger than ever. But more than that, I'd proven to myself that I didn't need to destroy anyone to win. I just needed to rise higher than they ever expected me to. Months later, BrightPath quietly folded. Its assets were sold, its name erased from the industry it once dominated. But my platform, it kept growing, with new clients, new developers, and new stories, all built on the same principle: transparency, integrity, and self respect. Sometimes, late at night, I'd still think about Derek. Not with hatred, but with a strange kind of gratitude. If he hadn't broken me, I would have never rebuilt myself this way. He gave me the worst day of my life. And without realizing it, he also gave me the best reason to change it. It's been 2 years since that final message from Derek. Sometimes it feels like a lifetime ago. That gray cubicle, the fluorescent lights, the quiet humiliation I carried home every night. Back then, I thought success was about climbing the ladder, earning approval, proving my worth to people who never really saw me. Now I know better. I work for myself. My company has grown from one man and a second-hand laptop into a team of brilliant, hungry minds who believe in the same thing I do: building something honest. Our clients come from all over the world. Some are big names, others small startups. But they all share one thing: they trust us. And trust, I've learned, is worth more than any paycheck. The crazy part? My tool, the one Derek once mocked, became an industry standard. Universities teach it now. I've spoken at conferences where CEOs who once ignored my resume line up to shake my hand. Sometimes I see old colleagues from BrightPath in the audience. They don't avoid my eyes anymore, they smile. Some even thank me. A few months ago, I got another email from Derek. No excuses, no blame, just, "I've been following your work. You turned it all around. I'm sorry." I didn't respond. Not out of pride, but because I didn't need to. There's a peace that comes when you finally realize the people who hurt you can't define you anymore. They stop being villains in your story and become just lessons. The truth is, revenge wasn't the ending. It was the beginning. It forced me to grow, to create, to reclaim everything they tried to take from me. I didn't destroy them with anger. I rebuilt myself with purpose. And in the end, that's the sweetest kind of revenge there is. I walk into my office every morning, sunlight cutting through the blinds, my team already buzzing with ideas. We laugh, we build, we innovate. And every time I open a new project folder, I remember that broken kid in the corner of that conference room, the one who was told he was useless. He'd be proud of who I became. So yeah, maybe I didn't just prove them wrong. Maybe I proved myself right. What do you think? Did I do the right thing? What would you have done in my place? If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss more true, dramatic tales of revenge and redemption. Like this video, drop a comment with your thoughts and tell me, have you ever dreamed of your own revenge glow up?